This
And
conference will now be recorded.
I'm Sanjay, and we're here to just showcase demo on testing methodologies and uh, approach, manual testing plus the same thing that is getting automated using some tools in the market Selenium WebDriver. Uh, so, uh, without getting more into the details, let's start uh, the testing methodologies and its approach, along with the Selenium WebDriver as a tool. All right, so I'm sharing this PPT. Uh, so, everyone, are you able to see this PPT?
Yes,
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 sir.
but yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to start.
Use F11 if you can.
Okay. Yes.
Are you making to present it?
Yeah, I'm presented, but it's not getting up. F11. Yeah. Just a moment.
I guess F11 or F5 are the functional keys wherein you can maximize those.
All right. All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Kiran.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
anytime.
All right. So uh, s- the idea is to why we have this uh, testing concepts and testing methodology we keep in our content, because uh, anyone who wanted to learn the testing testing concepts and automation skills, so he has to know what the testing is basically. So testing, the first questions comes into mind: what is software testing? Basically, software testing is a area in a software where it is to be done with the intent that there is some defects to be to be surfaced while looking into it, so that the product or services that should be bug free, that is the quality one. So first we will go through the manual testing. What is manual testing is all about, and then testing approach. Then we will talk about the automation tool available to automate the complete testing process. So I'm moving to the next slide, where it talks about what is software testing. So software testing is uh, the area where we look into the software under test, and we just go through the its functionality, uh, how it is working, and if we find any unusual behavior, like there is a requirement to just test the login behavior, for example, and let's say we are able to provide key in the correct user ID and password, and the expected result is to be we are on the home page. If we are not going to the home page, so this is the deviations, and we should report this to the you know as a defect. Like, this is the requirement that if we key in the correct user ID and password, but going we are not landing up to a home page, So this is the example I'm just talking about. Uh, and testing type, basically what kind of testing we can perform. So there is a two type of testing. There's a functional testing and non-functional testing. So whatever unit testing and integration testing, system testing, UAT, smoke, sanity, regression, these are the things that comes under the functional testing. And unit test unit test basically a piece of functionality which developed the developed in a software by a developer, that is to be tested in this particular category, unit testing. Usually developers does this kind of testing, but nowadays even tester also doing the same kind of testing. If developer says that I have developed the particular component, particular piece of code, particular functions. So integration testing, system testing, regression. So these are the things that comes under the functional. If we talk about the non-functional one, so where the performance and security of the applications comes into the picture, that we are not going to look into the functional part of it, like how we are logging into it, how we are navigating to the pages, how we are, moving one pages to another pages. But performance something which is non-functional, which talks something about like how our application is performing under a certain load, you know what kind of security it is getting provided in our applications. So these are the things that comes under the non-functional testing. uh, this particular picture you are looking at right now, this talks about the manual testing process, how it gets started. Whenever any projects come from the client, uh, we get the requirement document from the client. What is the requirement for a client for this particular uh, from this application to be tested out. So we get the requirement, we analyze those. If there are any problem during the understanding of the requirements, so we raise the question before the clients, just to get it clarified from the client. So for example, uh, there is a requirement for uh, let's say we are doing some kind of negative testing for login. For example, I'm taking out like if we are providing wrong username and correct password, there should be a message displayed on the login page that credential is not proper, credential is not correct. So this is a single requirement, and how we gonna test it. So since requirement is clear, so next steps that comes in this process is creating a test plan. Test plan is the artifacts basically which talks about what we gonna do uh, in this testing, like what kind of testing we are perform, who all will be performing this testing, uh, what kind of testing we are performing, whether it's a functional one, whether it's a non-functional one, or uh, who all be the resources, what would be the software requirement, what would be the hardware requirement for this, when this particular milestone would be achieved, uh, what would be the entry criteria for this, for testing, what would be the exit criteria for testing. So these are the things that it would be catered in the test plan document. Basically, this is a document which needs to be revisited all the times when we are uh, you know when we started testing. Let's say we schedule, we just jot down in a, this test plan document. If we are on the schedule, that is fine. If we are not on the schedule, then we have to revisit the, this document. Why? And just to know why we are not on the schedule. We just try to look into the problem, why we are not going to achieve the, this within the stipulated time. Then comes, like, once this document gets completed, then the steps come: test case design or test case creation. Like, we have a requirement, and against the requirement we write down the test cases. So test cases uh, document basically is a document where we write the uh, action, what kind of action user is going to perform, and what is the expected result, right? So we write the actions like user will perform, user is launched this particular URL, this particular login screen will be open. This is the basically action that is performed by the user. And once URL is hit, this particular page, login page, will be appear. So this is the basically expected result. When user does the actions like user key in the user ID and password, user should be landed up to the home page. So user should be landed up to the home page. This is the expected result, and action is user will key in the credentials, user ID and password. So so once test cases creation documents gets over, then test case, we execute that. Executions means we have the application ready for us, and we are given to test it out. So what we will do is, as a testing professionals, like, we will uh, excuse the test as written, like as per the statement, we will excuse those. And if there is any deviations, like expected result is not coming, then we log this as an issue, or we say it's a defects, or we say it's the bug. So we log it and assign to a respective developer that, okay, this is the deviation we found. This was not there in the requirement. As per the requirement, this should be a, this should be the expected result, but it is not appearing. Then developer fix it. Then it is come to us as a tester, and we re-verify it. If it is fixed, then one who logged the defect will close it after verifications with proper notes that is working on a particular build. Uh, we'll go in more detail when we'll start the session, uh, training session. But for now, this is the basically process. Uh,
Uh, Sanjay,
process.
sorry for the
Yeah,
interruption.
sure.
Uh, just to understand,
Yeah.
not to go much more deeper, is there any specific language we writing this test case for a machine to understand? Is there any specific language, something like that, for a tool to understand this?
All right. So if we are talking about the manual testing, so we write this test in a very plain, simple English language, which is
Mhm,
understandable to everyone,
mhm,
right? So once we talked about automation process, so same test we call there is a test script. So same that it could be written in certain languages. Like, if you talk about uh, Selenium, which has lot many binding languages like C Sharp, Java, Ruby, Perl, Python. So there we write test scripts in their respective language. But for now, if you talk about the manual testing, so we have to write this in a plain English language, which is understandable to everyone. Am I
okay,
clear to you?
thanks. Yeah.
All right. So I'm moving to next slide. Uh, as there is a development life cycle, software development life cycle. But similarly, we have in the testing software test life cycle. So the phases of STLC is requirement analysis. So very first time when any client comes to us for like I want my software to be tested by you guys. So they come up with their requirement, and we as a test professional, our responsibility is to analyze the requirement properly, understand it, and before execution, if there is any doubts, any clarifications, that gets clarified from the client, and then do the test planning, which just now I talked about what we do in the test planning. Test planning basically is a documents. You can say it's artifacts which has lot many things, and like what kind of testing we are going to perform, uh, who all will be part of this testing. I mean, I'm talking about the resources who all do the testing, which type of testing we're performing, whether we're doing the functional testing or non-functional testing. If we are doing the functional testing, then whether it is automated one or it's a manual one. If it is automated one, then what kind of tool you are using. uh, this tool is a open source tool or a pet tool. So all these kind of information, we have to provide a schedule in this plan, when we are going to achieve this milestone, uh, how many phases that this testing will be performed, 2 cycles, 3 cycles, 4 cycles. So this kind of, if we are reporting a defect, what kind of format of this defect, is there any tool for defect logging are we using? So this kind of information will be there in a test planning document. Then test case development, or we can say test case design. Then environment setup for testing, like let's say we are testing the application, let's say which requires more RAM. So let's say that is needed 12 GB RAM uh, for a VM or for a machine. So we have to provide those information you know in an environment setup document. And once environment setup done, we start executions, and the final steps is test cycle closure. So once testing done from our side, so how one can ensure that testing is complete? So there is an we say that if there is a no critical bug in the application, which can hamper the end user performance, like individual going to use this application, then it should not be a case like he's not able to use the application, or he is a kind of showstopper. He cannot move ahead on that. So we say that if there is a no critical defects in a system, okay, a- and all the functionality has been tested out, all the requirement which is provided by the client has been tested out, then we say that our testing is done, and we are going to hand over to the client that okay, these are the functionality. And whenever we hand it over to the client, that testing closure document, we say that these are the functionality we have covered as a part of testing. These many defects we have logged, and these are all retested and fixed by the developer. So we communicate to the client in a way that there is no critical defects in the system right now, and we have done two cycles of testing of that, and this is quality free software now, and you can use it. All right. So moving to, is there any question till now, so that I can clarify?
No, no,
All
clear.
right. All right. So I'm moving to the next slide. Uh, this just give you the overview that uh, software testing labels like unit testing, the individual component. Let's say there is a functionality. Let's say uh, there's a functions gets created. Like if you provide the name, uh, if you provide the ID, employee ID, it will fetch the complete details of that employee name and his date of birth and his address. So let's say the developer developed one functions, and and it is to be tested using unit testing. There are lot many tools available in the market. If uh, I'm sure you guys are aware of JUnit, NUnit, TestNG. Uh, Basically, these are the test unit tool which test the functionality written by the developer, or developer themselves test this particular things unit, because they know it, like what kind of argument they are passing into the functions and what kind of output they will get out of it. So JUnit usually what they is they create the uh, create the functions. Let's say they are passing IDs, so they will create a use case where they are passing the positive value ID, and they will get the desired result, like complete details pertaining to the IDs. They will also try with the ID with something. Let's say it's a numeric value, they will try to put the float value, they'll try to put the string, and that's just check the behavior, how this particular function is behaving. So this kind of testing is getting performed in the unit test, that is done by the developer. But yeah, nowadays, because even tester also use a same kind of knowledge, because they write the automation test, so they may also write the unit test cases if they are given a chance. Integration testing, basically, let's say there are two developers, they are working on a certain module, and though both the module gets developed and they are integrated, and once integration done, that integration getting tested by the testing test professionals. So they test the integration, like if something gets changed in one module, that will impact on others. So this kind of testing getting done in a integration test. So this is basically the integration test that is getting done by the tester only. Unit testing, we usually from since long it is getting done by the developer. So developer who writes the code that is getting tested by them. System testing, it is basically testing as a whole complete system. When system gets created, uh, is to be tested by the complete testing team. Then user acceptance testing. Basically, this is tested by the end user, who actually is the user of the particular system. They test the finally the final testing that is getting done by the end user before going to the productions. So guys, so till now, do we have any questions?
Oh, it's clear.
No, sir.
All right, moving to next slide.
Yeah, it's clear.
So yeah, yeah,
I'm just saying it's clear.
all right, all right. So uh, I am moving to the next slide, which will there are lot many tools available in the market. Selenium WebDriver, UFT. Uh, Basically, UFT is a pet tool. Selenium WebDriver is the open source. Uh, to automate what we till the time talked about, the test cases creation, like user will perform some actions. So automation uh, tool does the same for us. Like if user performs certain actions, like he go to the particular page, you know enter some information and submit the data. Same things getting done by the tool. So Selenium WebDriver I'm talking about, which is nothing but a set of APIs which automates the browser. Okay, so Selenium WebDriver basically used to automate only browsers. It doesn't work for desktop applications. Okay, so so this is open source, and this community have created a lot many APIs, that will help us to uh, create a test script. In the manual, we say that test case. Here we say test script, since this is scripted in a certain languages. So we call it a test script. So
And
in,
Sanjay,
yeah,
um, can I know what exactly is a term set of APIs or API here in this particular topic of using WebDriver, this WebDriver?
yeah, sure, sure. Uh, API, that's the stand for application programming interface. Basically, this is used to interact two different application, which is built up in different languages. So in order to talk between these two applications, which is built up on different technologies, uh, API comes into the picture. So how API works is, it is similar to our web services. So there is a kind of uh, language which talks any kind of technologies, like whether application that is built on the C++ or Java, C Sharp. So exchanging of information getting done by a language, we call it a neutral language. Let's say, I'm citing some example. XML, extensive markup language. If you pass any information in this format, uh, that will be taken by application which is written in any languages. They get the values from it, they parse this particular XML, they get the values, process it, then send back to the another application which is built up in a different languages to the same format XML. Again, they get this XML data and display it as per their need. So there is a neutral language which is required to talk between two applications built up in a different languages, different technologies.
So
This
here,
is,
the XML, what you are talking about, we can consider it as an API, right?
can
A
you
type
can
of
you
API.
come in, please?
Yeah. Here, the XML which you had given as example, so
Yeah,
we can treat that particular XML as an API in that particular example, right? Which is a
no,
medium of communication.
yeah, the pure communication. There are certain
Okay. So
things,
it's
yeah, behind the scene as well. But this XML, that is that works as a neutral language. Neutral language, if I say, that means every languages has certain capability. Every languages have certain capabilities to parse this, XML, get the data, and work on it again, sends back in the same format so that another application can understand it.
okay.
Yeah, what you're saying is correct.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. So for my understanding, what I feel is APIs are something, you know, if we go a little more deeper and understand, those are a set of programs together packed in and which are really made to interact. As a purpose of interaction, we use those APIs. Um,
exactly, exactly,
yeah.
the purpose is the same.
So end of
Uh,
the day, it is a set of programs, written to understand, or written for the purpose of making the user, the end user, understand the machine, properly, right? The code, I mean, the software properly.
Right, right. So for example, I'm just uh, setting up one simple example. Like
Mhm.
if we wanted to, you know, launch a site. So what we need is,
Okay.
if we talk manually, if what we need is, we need at least a URL, and we put in the URL bar and hit it. So this Selenium WebDriver APIs, they have a kind of method or program, you can say, uh, that driver, that is written in the driver itself, driver dot get URL, and we are just passing nothing but we are passing the URL. It will work for us, right? It will
Okay.
launch the browser. Yeah,
So that is zipped in the code
yeah,
of that particular URL behind.
yeah.
So it will make sure the driver, it get interacted to the driver and throws the output for us.
Exactly. Before that,
Yeah.
driver instance is to be created when we write the code. So we need to get the driver instance. When we get the driver instance, we can call all kind of method of it, like API method of it. Like we can call in dot get URL. We can set some values in the URL. We can uh, set some values in a any text box. We can click on a button. So all kind of operations we can perform. So it's a
Got it.
collection of a bunch of API, basically, the Selenium WebDriver, and it comes in a there's a zip form, uh, and you
Okay.
just download it, unzip it, and good to go for working.
Got you. Yeah.
Okay.
Carry on.
All right. So this is basically one image currently you are looking at. Uh, Selenium WebDriver. There are four sections. Uh, One is binding languages, C hash, Java, Python, Ruby, and a lot many others. Then in between comes Selenium WebDriver APIs, which we just talked about. And since it automates browser, so there are a lot many browsers in the market, like Internet Explorer is there, Chrome is there, Firefox is there, Safaris, and a lot many others. So how it will interact with other browsers? So there is a browser drivers, respective drivers for the browsers. So Selenium WebDriver API interacts with the respective drivers. Let's say if I'm using the I as a browser, so there is a small exe that's required. Basically, their driver. So this interacts with the driver, and driver basically interacts. Driver is nothing but that is built in your browser, and it performs the action on the browser, get back to the Selenium servers, and get back to the final result, get back to the API. So this image basically uh, tells you about how what is the architecture of this Selenium WebDriver, and these many languages can be used along with Selenium WebDriver API. Uh, there are possibility that the in the market people who know Java or C Sharp, they are from the .NET background, so they may choose any of the languages, any of the one languages, and they can start work on a WebDriver. So basically, I have written something in a text how it works basically. So any it works on the HTTP, since it is browser, it works on the HTTPS protocol. So HTTP request is created and sent to the browser driver, which we talked about. Like every browser has a its own driver for each Selenium instruction. Let's say I say that driver dot get URL is equal to this. So I am calling this API get URL. So this instructions that goes to the HTTP server. In our case, I would say it's a Selenium WebDriver server, and HTTP servers accept this, perform the action on the browser, and execution status sent back to the HTTP servers. And finally, it comes to the caller from where we call this get URL method, get URL API. Okay. So it is nothing but same thing from the first this image previous. Uh, yes, this particular image that talks about the same, which I have written in a any HTTP request is created and sent over the browser driver for each Selenium instruction. Let's say I have written that go to the browser, put the URL, uh, this particular page gets rendered, then type some username or set the username in a user ID text box, then set the password and click the login button. So these many commands I have written, right? So all those commands will go to the HTTP servers through our browser driver, and servers decides what all steps to perform and which are executed in the browser. So after executions, those executions status comes whether it's executed properly, not executed, or let's say I'm talking about the button. So button ID I have put for this to click on this particular ID. If on the runtime it doesn't get this IDs, it sends back that in the form of exceptions or exceptions that this particular ID is not no such element found in the page. So this kind of information that is sent back to the user who calls this particular API. So we talked about this Selenium WebDriver and its architecture, uh, how it works, and one who wanted to learn this or wanted to practice this. So this is the prerequisite for Selenium. Like one Java IDE should be installed in their machines. IDE where like you write your code. This is name is Eclipse or IntelliJ. So where you write your code, they call it the Java IDE. Then WebDriver libraries, you can I will tell you from where you get the particular site name. I will write down in this, after this prerequisite. Once the training gets over, once we'll start the training, then we'll write down the complete URL from where you can get this, all this IDE and WebDriver libraries, browser drivers. And apart from this, uh, for writing test cases, you need some uh, some kind of third party tool like TestNG. Actually it has got lot many annotations how your function will be treated as test, so they annotate it as an annotation test, so that system will understand this particular function is not a general function, it is as a test, it is working as a test. So there must be a reporting framework like any automation you do for a project, at the end, like you get a very flashy report to share with the you know client or your upper management, that these many things have been created, these many tests gets run, and this is a report. Like let's say you ran 100 cases, and 80 gets passed, 20 gets failed, and you just there is a reason for failed test cases. So must be a reporting mechanism and automation soup, like when you automate what kind of report you want, you can create your customized report as well. So there are a lot many things to be done with the reporting framework. There are ready-made reporting tool also available in the market, but you can customize your own. So these are the things you can do when we'll start learning this Selenium WebDriver course. So that is it from my side for the testing concepts, and I've just differentiated it from a manual process and an automated process. And there is a one more document I have created for contents, how it will be carried forward during the training sessions. Uh, so I would like to share that document with you. So so it's a it's a 1 to 10 days program, and this is the content basically. So manual testing. Before getting into the automation concepts, we will uh, try to give some more insight into the manual testing process, because once you are aware of the manual testing, automation is not will be challenges for you, because there are a lot many uh, lot many things, lot many ideas that you'll get from the manual testing only. Because once you are aware of the manual testing, this is basically automation testing, just a tool. Once you understand the tool, it's easy for you to you know create the automation scripts. So automation concepts, introduction to test automation pros and cons, why it is needed. You know, uh, introduction will be a part of Selenium WebDriver, and since I said like it is a lot many Java, lot many language bindings that is associated with this WebDriver. So we'll stick to one that I would suggest Java. Java is an object-oriented language. Uh, it's not necessary that only you use Java, because their C sharp also is object-oriented language. So once you learn Java, it will be a easy cake for you to learn C sharp. In case you wherever you are going and working in a let's say you are working in a .NET technology, so C sharp will not be a tough for you, because C sharp also is a object-oriented language as the Java is. So we'll go for fundamentals of Java, like what object-oriented concepts is, what do you understand by classes, do you understand by objects, simple program we will try to to learn, and so that you'll get a good clarity in how to write programs, and some of the keywords that we will try to learn: static, non-static, interface, abstract, what is abstract class, collection. uh, Collection, that is a very important topic for when you are storing multiple values, multiple objects. uh, so where we require a collections list, list, array list. There are some interface are there. So these kind of things we'll go through for uh, as a part of fundamentals of Java. There are There are the Apache Poi. They provide handling of Excel sheet. So whenever during the automation testing, we required some data is to be prepared. Data that needs to be feed in a on the page and submitted. We use Apache Point for Excel sheet handling, because in the manual cases, we manually enter the data onto the page wherever it is required. But in a automation testing, we require certain things to be handled automatically. So for Excel handling, we required Apache Py. This is a you know um, this is also found in the zip format, as we get this Selenium API in a zip format, and you unzip it and put it in the system and import it in our program so that we can use this Apache Py. So we'll go in detail while during the training sessions, and basically test ng, the test engine we call it. Basically, this is a unit test tool as well as the automation test tool. This has got lot many annotations, how your test will be understand by like it's a test. There are annotations like before suit, after method, before method. You know, this kind of annotations is there, like what kind of operation you wanted to perform before suit, after suit what will happen, before before test what will be happen, after test what will be happen. So this kind of annotations is there. If you wanted to do certain things before and after, you can do using this. So this also talks about, like, there are, let's say you have a test which got 40, 50 test cases are there, and if you wanted to skip 10 test cases and only 30 test cases to be done, you can do using a test engine. There are a way to do that. there are there are some annotations through which you can skip those cases, and you can run only those which you want as per your convenience. And then once these are the things done, we will directly switch to WebDriver. Now, when we will switch to WebDriver, now we will be expertise on Java. You'll expertise on TestNG, and a lot many concepts. So it will be very easy. We will go very fast on this, because you guys will be very much familiar with this thing, how to write Java code. So most of the Java code, we are calling this APIs using Java only. So most of the things will be Java. So you have to be very you know careful while going through this concepts, Java concepts. So once you know Java, you can write anything.
Well,
I'm, yeah,
Sanjay, sorry for interruption.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so this is something which you are going to, as part of a training process. This is something you are going to process, or you are going to, convey the same to the students who are joining the course, right?
yeah.
Yeah, this seems to be very good. Um, well, as we are running a little short of time, I'm really sorry
Yeah.
for that. So what we do is we'll just wind up these things here, and this seems to be a little interesting for us, especially uh, your narration style and the content which you have at this point of time.
Okay.
It's quite interesting for me and my team as well. Um, sure, hopefully Ranjit might get back to you sometime today or over the weekend. Um, he will convey you what are the next steps, and what these, as a team, what we are going to do in the next steps and stuff. Um, yeah, that's it from us. And do you have anything to say about the same?
Oh, that's fine, Kiran. Because I'm done with this part, so we'll discuss in more
Yeah,
detail. Um,
yeah. Cherukuri is running short of time. Even I'm stuck with some work out. So, anyways, it will be a sort of disturbance for us, and that doesn't make any sense. Running outside and hearing to this session. So, anyways,
All
that's a good time we really had with you, and the session seems to be absolutely fine. I came to know a few things from you, and those are quite interesting as well. Um, yeah, that's it from me.
all
And
right.
let me just see if Cherkuri is there. I guess, Cherkuri, are you there? I guess he's done for the day because his office timings are somewhere 9 to 10. Well, anyways, we'll talk over the phone on this. We'll wind this up here for now, Sanjay. Anyway,
Yeah, sure, sure. Kiran.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
thanks.
nice to hear from you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Bye bye.
We'll catch up sometime over the weekend. Bye.
Sure, sure.